Good afternoon. Two veteran correctional officers of the Fresno County Sheriff's Office are in the hospital after being shot in the head and neck areas. Juanita Davila, who has 18 years of experience, is listed in critical but stable condition. Toamalama Scanlan, who has 10 years of experience, is listed in critical condition. The suspect who has been arrested is 37-year-old Thong Vang of Fresno. Thong Vang has prior criminal history. In fact, he was involved in the 1998 rape case where gang members kidnapped and raped 3 victims who were 12, 13, and 14 years old. There was a magic investigation, and Vang was sentenced to 19 years in prison for rape in concert with gang enhancements. He served 16 years and was paroled to the city of Fresno in September of 2014. Contact with parole indicates that he has, until this morning, complied with all requirements of his parole. He is in custody, as I said, and he was transported to the hospital for minor injuries sustained during the struggle. Shortly after 8:30 this morning, Thong Vang entered the main lobby of the Fresno County Jail. He came in saying that he wanted to visit somebody and tried to get to the head of the line. He failed to comply with orders to get in the back of the line, continued to act agitated, walking around the lobby. He was confronted by correctional officers who insisted that he wait his turn in line. The lobby of the jail is a public area. It had about 15 people in the lobby, including small children. Vang began to show signs of bizarre behavior and pacing back and forth near a metal detector in the lobby of the jail. That metal detector leads to a secure area of our main jail at the corner of Fresno and Mims Street. A correctional officer working at the desk called in for help when it looked like Vang was going to resist, which he did. Juanita Davila was the first to confront Vang. He pulled a gun out of his clothing somewhere and began shooting. As the correctional officers that had been called for help approached, they heard the shots being fired. Toa, as he approached the suspect, was then shot. Additional jail personnel responded, including a jail lieutenant. The jail lieutenant was the only person in the jail at the time that had a firearm with him. When he responded, he saw the suspect with the gun and fired several shots at Vang. Vang then retreated into a hallway, a secure hallway, and Deputy Sheriff and Fresno Police officers arrived at the scene. When he was confronted by sheriff's deputies, he showed his weapon, dropped it outside of the door, and said that he wanted to be arrested. He was held at gunpoint while other law enforcement personnel pulled the 2 victims out of the lobby to awaiting ambulances. Actually drug them out of the lobby to the ambulances that were waiting outside the front door. All sheriff's employees and witnesses, including the people waiting in the jail lobby, are being interviewed right now. The sequence of events and exactly what happened, we are still finding out. At one point, the suspect was tased. We don't know who or at what point during the struggle that happened. As far as the jail goes, it is on lockdown. As you can imagine, there will be no visiting until further notice. So members of the public should not go to the jail expecting to visit anyone in custody at this time until we give you clearance. C.O. Davila is a mother of 2 children. She has 3 grandchildren. Toamalama Scanlan has 6 children. I've been to the hospital. I've been able to see them both. I've been able to speak with the family members. They're all there, along with many concerned and worried members of the Sheriff's Office and their families. Our chaplains are helping out. So this is a very sensitive time for the members of the Fresno County Sheriff's Office. Of course, we're all praying for their full recovery, and I ask that the public at large do the same. I appreciate all of the emails, the telephone calls, the Twitter comments that I've received. I can only respond to the most critical at this point, but I will in the future respond to all of your thoughts and positive comments that you're making. Does anybody have any questions?
Sheriff, we heard that that the deputies, one was shot in the head area and the other one in the neck. Can you elaborate on that?
They're correctional officers.
I'm sorry, the correctional officers were shot.
Their assignment is to work specifically in the jail. They were both shot in the head and neck area. As far as I know at this point, both were shot just once. So that's the detail that I can release right now.
Can you talk to us about what their current status is in the hospital? I know you said it, but can you repeat that again?
Officer Davila is going into surgery for repair of a broken jaw. Officer Scanlan is going into surgery because of the critical injuries that he does have. He's going into surgery right now. In fact, when I left the hospital, both of them were on their way to surgery. Again, Officer Davila is in critical but stable condition. Officer Toa is in critical condition.
Can you comment if Dan was visiting a family member? If he has family members in Fresno Jail? Was he visiting family members? Does he have
The suspect.
the suspect? Yes.
I don't know who or the relationship of the person that he was going to see in the jail. His comment was he was there wanting to visit someone.
Sheriff Mims, you seem very emotional, understandably. This is a part of your family. Talk to me about kind of how you and your staff are doing right now.
We will deal with this. We certainly have resources available for everyone, including our chaplains that I mentioned before, our employee assistant programs. We have peer counselors, and then the support that we all show each other. It is a very emotional issue because this is a family. We leave our first families and join another family when we work. So we care deeply about each other. We understand that what we do has risks. What we do has risks. I'm very proud of the way our personnel responded, running towards danger even when they knew shots were fired. I'm very proud that they were able to take somebody into custody. He has some very minor injuries that he sustained during the struggle, and he was transported to the hospital. When he's treated, he'll go back to the Fresno County Jail and be held until his trial.
You talk about you kind of being a family unit here, but also the families over at the hospital. You mentioned going over there as well. What has the conversation been with them?
Well, as you can imagine, the families, when they responded, they were in shock. They were able to see their loved ones, and that's always better when you're able to actually put your eyes on and the person that you're worried about, and because you feel better that at least you can see them. When I leave here, I will go back to the hospital to see how everyone is doing. But they are surrounded now by not only their immediate family members, but the family of the Sheriff's Office to support them in any way that we can. And I have to mention also the excellent medical staff and treatment that our personnel is getting. When we go to CRMC, not only for our personnel, but for the public, we know that they're going to get quality, first-rate treatment, and that's what's happening right now.
This is the first shooting at the jail in history?
This is the first shooting in the jail during my career here at the Sheriff's Office. So we have not had this happen before.
Sheriff, I think you already went over it a little bit, but could you say one more time how the suspect was eventually brought into custody, just kind of that series of events?
After the shots were fired and our 2 correctional officers were down, one of our jail lieutenants, who is a peace officer, he carries a weapon, responded to the lobby. As he saw the suspect and saw that he was armed, he fired at the suspect. The suspect then retreated to a secure area of the jail, and at that time, then we have some deputy sheriffs arriving who see him. The suspect actually dropped his gun down on the floor and said, "I want to be arrested." He was held at gunpoint while the rescue occurred of the correctional officers. So while he was being held, other deputies actually grabbed the wounded and pulled him out of the lobby to the awaiting ambulances.
Forgive me if you already repeated, but were these 2 correctional officers armed?
No, they were not.
Is that standard protocol for them to not be armed even in the lobby area?
Yes, that is. Recently, if we have enhanced training for our correctional officers, they aren't peace officers. They are correctional officers. Now, if they're involved in our transport unit, where they transport inmates from one place to another, we have enhanced training where we do, while they're on duty, give them firearms, and they're trained and are allowed to carry weapons, but not the officers in our lobby.
Given that no other people in the lobby were hurt, I believe, do we believe that, other than him just wanting to get to see somebody inside the jail, that he had ill-will feelings towards law enforcement at all?
We don't know, and I can't even confirm that he was in fact there to visit. That's what he said. After he's interviewed, if he speaks, we might get some more information. All I can do is repeat what he said at that particular time, and that's what he said. If you take a look at the diagram, at the very top where the double doors are, that's the entrance to the lobby. And you can see at the point where it says suspect, that's where he ended up and was taken into custody. He had fled to that back area and was in a secure area of the jail. You can see the 2 words that say rescue. That's the location of where our correctional officers actually fell and were rescued from. On the right where it says sheriff employee, that's where our lieutenant came. There's an elevator and a stairwell there. That's the area from which he came, where he confronted the suspect. And as you can tell, it's not easy to see where the suspect was from where he was. But that explains the diagram that you see there.
I know it might be a little early to talk about, but does this make you maybe reconsider security measures for the lobby of your jail?
Well, believe me, this is going to be debriefed. We're going to take a look at, what we do, can we do it better? We've been in discussion for many years about making the correctional officers peace officers, and determining who is armed and who's not in the jail. Of course, not even deputy sheriffs carry firearms up on the floors of the jail. No one does. However, I think by giving them peace officer status, it will help make a decision on, for instance, even laws. This is not an assault against a peace officer. They aren't peace officers, but it's an assault against a custodial officer. So there's some specific laws that will apply to this, and it's very easy, I think, for the public and maybe even other law enforcement officers to say, why wasn't the suspect shot? Why wasn't he hurt? I've emphasized in my personnel, we're professionals. We react in a reasonable manner. We react lawfully, and that's what happened in this case. When the deadly force was no longer present, the sheriff's office personnel responded appropriately. And now he will be held accountable for what he did.
Sheriff, there have been a number of shootings involving law enforcement really this year alone, and having this one happen here at home, how hard is that for you?
This is always hard, but we know our duty, we know our responsibility, and we step up, and we'll continue to step up. I think it's underrated about the danger that our correctional officers face. I don't think it crosses the public's mind very often unless you are able, and many people have been on a tour of the jail to see what they face. I think they underestimate the professionalism, the training we provide for them to be in a custodial setting and be responsible for the security and the safety of 3,000 inmates that we have every day in the jail. And I want to commend them for stepping up every day and doing that job, a job that many people wouldn't even think about trying. But they're professionals, I'm proud of them, and they behaved in a manner today that I'm very proud of.
Sheriff, can you talk to us again about the deputy who did fire at Vang? And will that employee be placed on administrative leave because it was enough to involve?
The employee that fired at the suspect was a correctional lieutenant. And he will go through the same protocol that anyone in the office goes through with paid administrative leave. And he, of course, is being involved in interviewing. That will probably happen tomorrow or the next day. That's a normal thing for to happen. But as you can imagine, with all of the witnesses that were in the lobby, this is going to take some time to get an exact sequence of events and exactly what happened. This is all very, very preliminary. This guy is a prison inmate. He's a convict. He's a parolee. And maybe that's where he belongs for the rest of his life.
I've spoken with you recently about Prop 57, Prop 47, this whole, I mean, we can go into politics right now, but this is a convict, as you were saying. I mean, is this what you are concerned about for our future with having these criminals out on the streets?
This particular parolee was not in custody on charges that would have been eligible if Prop 57 passes. He did 80% of his sentence, which is the law that's allowed, and he was paroled. We've been in contact with his parole officer, who did tell us that since he got out of prison in 2014, he's been complying with all of the conditions of his parole. What happened? What changed his mind to decide to act out and confront our correctional officers this morning? We don't know yet, but that's certainly a question we'll find out.
Can you talk again about security measures? Are there metal detectors in the lobby, or how exactly is it set up?
When you walk into that lobby area, and you can see lobby 1 there, it's a public area. So the public walks in to conduct all kinds of business at the jail. They check in for visiting. There's a kiosk there where they can put money on the inmate books. There's all kinds of public things. That's where people go, for instance, for live scan services. So it's just a government public access area. So there's a lot of business that happens, including somebody that maybe want a CCW. That's where they will go to do their live scan. So there's a lot of business that goes in and out of there, and it's a public area. There are 2 metal detectors in that lobby area before you go into secure areas of the jail. So where you see the sheriff's employee, there's a metal detector there. And back down where you see the suspect, back towards the lobby desk, there's a metal detector there. So before anybody enters actually the secure area of the jail, there are metal detectors, but the rest of it is a government public lobby.
After this incident, does it, I know you mentioned we'll be debriefing or I guess examining things on how security can be improved, but is that something you think you'll ultimately end up doing, putting metal detectors in the lobby?
We really don't know yet, because if you put metal detectors there at the jail lobby, that means you have to staff it. Somebody would have to be there if it goes off to screen people. But that's something we're definitely going to talk about. Whether or not we end up doing it is another thing. But it does not have the security, for instance, that the courthouse has. It does back into the secure areas if you go that far, but not for the general public purposes.
Can you please repeat the age of victims and for how long have they been in the department?
I don't have their ages, but I can tell you that Toamalama Scanlan has worked at the sheriff's office for 10 years. Prior to that, he worked 7 years as a juvenile correctional officer. And Juanita has worked here 18 years. So they are veteran correctional officers.
Sheriff, we're on Facebook Live with thousands of people all over, and everybody keeps saying sending prayers, sending prayers.
I believe. So keep those prayers coming, not just today, but for law enforcement across our country every single day.
Sheriff, from beginning to finish, about how long was the altercation before he was apprehended?
And, I don't have the exact time, but from the way it's described to me, it's mere minutes that this all happened. And that's kind of normal when it comes to gun battles. They're usually over very, very quickly. We have had, as you all know, a deputy sheriff killed in the line of duty. The actual incident took seconds. The actual operation was hours. We are now in the investigating phase of this, where now we slow things down and take our time. We've secured the jail lobby. We are going to count rounds, how many shots were actually fired. And as you can imagine, it's a mess. There's a lot of glass. It's been broken. Several shots were fired. So now we sort through the chaos and determine what the facts are of what happened during the incident, the sequence of what happened, so that we build a case for effective prosecution.
Do you know how many shots were fired at Wayne? And I know that you said that he suffered some minor injuries. What were those injuries?
Yeah. I don't know yet how many shots total he fired or that were fired at him from our personnel. His injuries are some cuts and scrapes while he was, while the physical encounter was going on, very minor.
So even though he was shot at,
He was
never
not,
penetrated.
he was not hit by any of the gunfire.
And the altercation was with the officer that had the firearm, or?
No. The physical altercation were with correctional officers who were unarmed before he shot them? Or Yes,
after they were shot?
there was a physical confrontation, then shots were fired, he pulled the gun and shot them. And then the correctional lieutenant came to the lobby area and shot at the suspect.
Sheriff Mims, how many people were in the lobby at the time of the incident?
We think there were probably close to 15 people in the lobby and 4 or 5 very small children. So he not only put our personnel at risk, but the public that were in the jail to do whatever business they were in the jail to do. So we have those people here in the sheriff's office. Our detectives are interviewing them. We've called out all of our detectives that are assigned to persons crime, and they're all involved in those interviews.
Does that also include some folks that were in a bathroom? We spoke to a woman who said she was kind of barricading herself in the bathroom and stuff like that.
That's likely. I haven't heard that yet, but there is a bathroom off of the jail lobby, so it's entirely possible.
Saw a message of support from Sheriff Boudreaux down in the South Valley. What other kind of messages are you receiving from law enforcement?
I've personally been contacted by numerous sheriffs across the state, including the LA County Sheriff, Jim McDonald, who called. State agencies have called to express their support and any resources that we need. The FBI has contacted us in case there's any resources or assistance that we need. It is just amazing at a time like this how people will come together for whatever is necessary to handle the issue. And we'll handle it. We'll handle it. We're hurting right now because we have 2 people that work in the sheriff's office that are injured very, very badly by someone who didn't care about them and didn't care about the public in the jail lobby. But again, I will say we are professionals. We dealt with it professionally. We took him into custody. He will continue to be in our custody until there is a trial or some kind of pleading. We don't know the direction this is going to go. But he's a bad guy. And as far as I'm concerned, he's where he belongs right now.
Sheriff, have you heard from the Attorney General or the Governor?
I've heard from the governor's office. However, I have not heard from the Attorney General.